And just like that, we're back.
It feels good to be back!
After a weekend off, the season is heading to Birmingham for round number 10 of the series. If you guys have been here before, you already know what time it is, and if you're new here, thanks for joining. This is our race day updates show where we go over everything you need to know before the night show. So as always, we're going to start things off with our injury updates, and the big news this week is that finally we are getting to see the return of Christian Craig to the series.
Still race?
It will be really interesting to see exactly how he can do with a few of the top guys that are already out. Eli Tomac, the Lawrence brothers, Jorge Prado, and Cade Clayson are all out with their same respective injuries. Then as far as the 250 class, unfortunately the list is much longer. So we obviously have Cameron Macadoo, who is out with his reconstructed ACL. Nick Romano is returning, but his knee is still torn up, so keep an eye out for him. Hopefully he can hang in there. Casey Cochran is clear to ride, but he's also still out. Levi Kitchen is still down and out from that collarbone and back injury that he suffered at Daytona. Gage Linville is returning from his hand injury that caused him to miss the last race. And unfortunately, Matty Jorgenson, who's been struggling with some injuries throughout the season, did end up breaking his collarbone, so he will be out. And I also want to give a quick shout out to Chad Saultz. He did end up breaking his chain in midair, which caused him to ultimately crash. And as of right now, he has no feeling in his lower extremities, so really hate to see that. There is a road to recovery link. I'll throw that in the description if you guys can help out. I'm sure that would mean a lot. Devin Simonson is also cleared to be back on the bike. He's yet to make his Club MX debut, but look for him to return at some point, just not this weekend. And then of course we know that Pierce Brown is out with his injuries. And then Jalek Swoll is obviously still out with his torn Achilles, although he did renew his contract with Triumph. All right, now we're going to get into our top contenders and their storylines. So starting out at the top of the 250 class, we have Tom Vialle, who was able to retake his red plate from the start of the season. Interestingly enough, he has not won a race yet.
How did you do that?
But he does look like he could win a race this year. He has a total of 79 points, so quite a bit of points have been left on the table so far, considering that we're only 4 rounds in for these guys. But remember, there is still 2 more showdown races, so I feel like we're not going to have a real clear picture on which way this championship is going until at least we get through the next showdown. Anyways, behind him we have Max Anstie, and he's only 1 point back. He was only able to manage a 7th at Indy, which did end up losing him the points lead. So he has struggled a bit the last couple of rounds. It'll be interesting to see if he can bounce back this weekend. I definitely still have him up there as one of my favorites this season.
You're still in this race.
Then behind him, jumping all the way up to 3rd in the standings, we have Seth Hammaker. And he is now 11 points back after that awesome win that he was able to get at Indianapolis. I was making some jokes about hopefully he can wrap himself in bubble wrap and get through the night, since he's basically the last healthy pro circuit rider. And he did a lot more than that. He was able to come out and win. So shout out to him. That was really awesome to see. He definitely carried the momentum into the off week, but will he be able to carry that momentum into Birmingham? Then right behind him, only 1 point back, 12 points back from Vialle, we now have RJ Hampshire. So while he is 4th in the standings, he is significantly closer to being in this championship than he was after round number 1, where he only managed to score an 18th place finish. We saw him come out and get that awesome win at Daytona, and then he also got 4th last weekend, which all things considered was a pretty good finish. He's far from out of this title fight, so keep your eye on him as well. The next closest guy in the title fight is going to be Nate Thrasher, and he's 26 points back. So as of right now, he's kind of leading the pack of the best of the rest. Definitely somebody who I could still see getting a race win, especially as his hand heals up. I'm sure the off week definitely helped him out a little bit. Then behind him, we have Chance Hymas, who is 28 points back. So he's definitely going to be within striking distance of Nate Thrasher. And he's starting to look like he's coming on strong. So hopefully he can stay healthy. Hopefully his knee continues to hold up. And hopefully he can continue to build his confidence and get some momentum going as we head towards motocross. Then not too far behind him, we have Cullin Park, who is 31 points back. Now he's had a pretty good season. He did get in a scuffle with Austin Forkner earlier on in the season. So it'll be interesting to see if there's anything there that continues to boil over, or if he can just continue to be rock solid moving forward. Then as we close out our top 10, the next rider up will be Daxton Bennick, and he's 36 points back. He did have to skip around with that concussion, and he looks to be bouncing back relatively strong, but nothing quite like what we saw at the opening round where he was finishing in 2nd. Then we have Max Vohland, who is 39 points back. So he looks like he's starting to get the ball rolling after having some clutch issues earlier on in the season. Looks like he's figuring out what he needs to do. So really love to see that. And then rounding out your top 10 tied with Max Vohland is going to be Carson Mumford. Kind of reminds me of Cullin Park. They're both on Hondas. They're both riding really consistent. It'll be interesting to see which one of those two does better overall in the season. And then I also just want to give a quick shout out to Austin Forkner, who is a little bit further back. He is now 44 points down, and it looked like he was definitely struggling. He almost didn't make it out of the LCQ last weekend. I do expect him to get it together at some point. Might not be this year. Hopefully it is this year. Either way, I'm keeping my eye on him every weekend to see exactly what he can do, and I'm definitely rooting for him. Moving on to the 450 class, at the top with a pretty significant points lead, we have Cooper Webb. So he has a grand total of 193 points.
Where is everyone?
Definitely been turning things around lately. He looked absolutely dominant last weekend. He actually came around Chase Sexton, who was in front of him at the start of the race, and then just continued to dominate the race. So while I think that Chase could generally be argued to be the faster guy, last time we saw these guys out on the track, Cooper Webb looked like he was the best rider in every aspect. So it will be interesting to see if any of that carries over this weekend, or maybe Chase used the off weekend as a reset and he's coming in with a fresh mindset and things could go better for him. He's now 15 points down, so definitely some room to make up. He would have to win the next 5 races in a row if Cooper Webb was finishing in second behind him every single time in order to take over the points lead, which would not leave him much time left in the series. Now, obviously, I don't think either of those things would happen, but the point here is that 15 points is a pretty significant margin with these guys right now. He's definitely 100% still in the title fight, but he's definitely not in the best position. Then in third, we have Ken Roczen, who is now 26 points down. So unfortunately, Ken did have a little bit of a rough time at the last round. That did set him a bit further back. He is more than 1 race down now in the points, but we've seen these top riders kind of get injured all throughout this season, and he's not that far behind Chase Sexton. So if Cooper Webb does have a bad round, he will be right back in the thick of this thing. In fourth, we have Justin Cooper, and he's a bit further back. He's 49 points back, but he's looked really, really good. He looked even better than I expected at the last round in Indianapolis. It'll be interesting to see if he can figure out these whoops at all, or if he's just going to continue to struggle. If he ever does figure out the whoops, everybody watch out. Rounding out our top 5, we have Malcom Stewart, and he's now 53 points back. Really cool to see him doing so well. I think he definitely could move up a position or 2 in the championship depending on how things go. But as of right now, it looks like he's just trying to have a solid season and secure a ride for next year. Next up is Jason Anderson, and he's 57 points back. Always somebody who's fun to keep an eye on. You never know exactly what you're going to get out of him. Then behind him, we have Justin Barcia, and he is now 64 points back. Then we have Justin Hill, and he's one of my favorite guys to watch. He's always hitting the big lines, and he does have the speed in qualifying. I really hope to see him get a podium at some point. I would absolutely love to see that. He's still ahead of Aaron Plessinger, who is 88 points back now. He is starting to close in on Justin Hill, but I do expect Hill to at least be able to hold on for another round or 2 before Plessinger takes over that spot. And then rounding out our top 10, we have Dylan Ferrandis, and he is over 100 points back. So pretty significant margin behind the rest of these guys, but he's still top 10 in the championship. So shout out to him. Now, before we get into our rider statistics, I do want to mention that this is going to be a Triple Crown, and it's also going to feature the SMX Next class, also known as Supercross Futures. It is a little bit of an interesting schedule. Race Day Live is going to kick off at 2:30 Eastern. The LCQ is going to be also on Race Day Live at 4:30 Eastern. And then the main event, or the night show itself, will kick off at 7 Eastern. And thankfully the weather is looking really good as it is an open stadium. It's just going to be in the low 70s, high 60s. So definitely some good conditions. Anyways, make sure you get your fantasy picks in before 7 Eastern. And if you want to watch the LCQ, make sure you tune into Race Day Live. Also, there will be a break between main event number 2 and 3 for the Supercross Futures. Just want to give you guys a heads up on that. And now let's go ahead and dive into our statistics. So I tried to bring you guys some pretty interesting information. We're going to start off with Cooper Webb. So last weekend, he obviously went wire to wire. And last year, he did get second in Birmingham behind Jet Lawrence. It would seem that we're on a Cooper Webb swing of tracks here. And that is demonstrated by the fact that he hasn't finished worse than second since round number 3. In that time frame, he's gained 25 points on Chase Sexton, which is essentially a full race worth of points. He's also led significantly more laps than Chase Sexton, and he's only crashed one time in races this season. Contrasting that to Chase Sexton, his main rival, Sexton's best finish in the last 5 races is a 3rd place. It seems like he does do a little bit better on the hard pack tracks that don't break down so much. And on top of that, he's crashed 6 times in races so far this season. He does have a mixed bag of results at Triple Crown so far this season, winning Glendale without winning a main event, and then he essentially had the last Triple Crown in the bag, and then we all saw how that ended. Just looking at the Triple Crowns by themselves, it would probably leave you on the fence as far as whether or not you should pick Chase Sexton to win. But one last thing that might help you decide is that Chase Sexton did finish 4th here last year behind both Cooper Webb and Ken Roczen. Anyways, moving on to Ken Roczen, the next closest rival in this title fight. First of all, I just want to give him a quick shout out. I forgot to do this earlier. He did get his American citizenship, so awesome job for that. Anyways, he's been on the podium 6 out of the 9 rounds so far this season, and 2 of those rounds that he wasn't, he did crash, if you count last weekend as a crash. But either way, he had setbacks in those 2 of those races. And even with that first turn setback last weekend, he was able to come back to 7th place, even though he was almost in dead last off the start. But looking at Ken Roczen, I think the most important statistic is that he does have the best average start out of anybody in this field. And like I said, he was on the podium here last year. Keep in mind, the last time we saw him put together a clean race was in Daytona, and he did end up winning that race straight up. He came through the field to pass Cooper Webb. And while Cooper Webb was closing in the latter stages, he did end up fending him off and pulling away by the end of the race. Now, while it might seem those 3 guys should probably be locked in as the podium, we can't forget about Justin Cooper, who did just get his first podium of the year last time we were out at Indianapolis. He's also a pretty good starter, which does help in the Triple Crowns. He's generally top 3 off of the start, doing that about half of the time. And he also has the most hole shots out of anybody this year. Now, I feel like it's generally accepted at this point that his biggest weak point is the whoop section, and looking at the whoop section this weekend, it looks like it could be his style of whoop section, given that there is a berm with a very short run up to the whoops, followed immediately by another berm. So definitely not the fastest speed whoop section. Generally, that would play into his favor. Then, of course, we need to talk about Malcom Stewart. So he is 4th in the points, but he only has 2 top 5 finishes. Now, he is coming off a recent heat race win, and he did finish 6th at the last round. On one hand, you might want to put him in your top 5 based off of the fact that he's 4th in points, but on the other hand, the rest of the statistics generally don't point towards him being in the top 5 because he's only been able to do that twice out of the 9 tries so far this season. The next closest guy in the points would be Jason Anderson, but to be honest with you, the only reason I would put him in my top 5 is if you just have some crazy gut feeling, because pretty much everything is pointing for him not to be in the top 5. He likes hard packed tracks, he likes to steer with the rear. His best finish in the last 4 rounds is a 6th place finish, and his average finish over those same rounds is a 9th. On top of that, he did get 6th here last year, so he was not in the top 5 then either. The only stat that makes me feel good about Jason Anderson this weekend is that he does have the 2nd best average start behind Ken Roczen. Now, as far as Aaron Plessinger, I do think there is a slight argument to put him in your top 5 this weekend, and that is mainly because he's been in the top 5 the last 2 weekends in a row. While he has spent the majority of the season outside of the top 10 in the point standings, he is trending in the right direction. However, he did get 8th here last year, and he has an extremely average bad start. Currently, he has about the 14th best average start out of everybody. And then as far as Justin Barcia, he did just score a top 5 at the last round in Indianapolis, but keep in mind that was with a hole shot. He did end up fading back to 4th place, and he did barely finish inside the top 10 here last year. He's definitely somebody that could get inside the top 5, but not somebody that I would recommend putting in your top 5. If you are playing Rocky Mountain Fantasy, this week the wild card is 14th place, and looking at 14th place in the championship right now, by the time you remove the guys who are no longer competing in the series, in 13th we have Mitchell Oldenburg, 14th is Colt Nichols, 15th is Benny Bloss, and 16th is Mitchell Harrison. And all of those guys are pretty rock solid. I do expect the wild card to likely come from one of those 4 guys. Keep in mind, we are adding Christian Craig into the mix this week. So do you guys expect him to be above that top 14? Personally, I probably do. But then again, it is 3 main events. So there is a chance that he could have an issue, get tired, not finish all the main events. Anything like that could happen. Depending on how you guys feel about all that, you may even want to put Christian Craig as the wild card. Just keep in mind that it is going to take some consistency, as there is 3 main events. So it's not just going to be a good start and hold on, fade back to 14th. And it's not going to be get a bad start and ride your way up to 14th. It's going to be somebody who's consistently around that 14th place mark. Keep in mind that while it might feel like there's still plenty of time left in the season, this is round number 10 and we are heading towards the home stretch of the season pretty quickly. To me, it feels like this is kind of a make or break race for Chase Sexton. If he continues to stay on this roll of barely getting a 3rd or 4th place finish, I feel like the title is pretty much going to be beyond his reach without a major Cooper Webb setback. But I'm really curious what you guys think. Do you guys think that Chase Sexton has a must-win race tonight? And do you think that Ken Roczen is still in the championship fight? This week in particular was pretty challenging for me, as I have a lot of stuff going on in my personal life. So I did not quite get to do as much as I wanted with the race day updates video this week. But I just want to give a shout out to each and every one of you guys who have been sticking around the channel. You guys are really helping me grow the channel, and I really appreciate each and every one of you. If you made it this far in the video and you have not already, I would really appreciate you subscribing. It really means a lot. And I will continue to bring you guys the best moto content, not only race day updates, but we also do motocross story videos and things like that. And I really am trying to grow the channel to do a lot of other cool things. I'm working on a lot of ways to expand the channel to bring you guys even better content. And I will be trying to travel to as many races to bring you firsthand coverage as much as possible, like we did at Anaheim 1, Paula, things like that. At the end of the day, I'm just a motohead like you guys that just loves the sport, and I'm just trying to share that passion with you guys and bring my own perspective and spin on things. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.